I think I've just had opportunity to work with some amazing people over time, and have consistently tried to work with interesting people on projects that I think open dialogue or open the conversation either to the genre they're depicting or just to what's going on. Specifically, I think Blueback has that appeal in that it's got this sort of, it's an environmentally inspiring story, I think, at a time when we kind of need some sort of something to sort of look forward to in a gloomy future.
Totally. Well, because I was going to say that you have, because of the diversity of your filmography, I'm kind of fascinated in what like draws you to a project in the first place. Like, is there something that you specifically look for?
Yeah, like something that opens a conversation. Like even if it's like a horror movie, if there's that can be an interesting kind of space to work in because it's very creative. But if it's adding to that conversation in some way, like a new part of, adding to the conversation, I guess, doesn't really matter what the movie is about. And ideally, if you're working with people who are intellectually stimulating or, interesting to you, then I guess that would be the trajectory. I'm not so like ambitious in a sort of career sense. It's more, am I interested in the actual project? Do I want to be there for that amount of time with those people telling that story? Do I like the character? I guess is also essential.
What I found interesting about the film is because of the multiple timelines that based just on screen time, effectively, you're the lead of this film. You're in this film more than any other actor. And did you feel a sense of responsibility because of that?
I did. I mean, I felt a sense of responsibility just to I was inspired, actually. I was like, this is a great role. Yes. Like, I love this character. I think she's very original character. You don't see women like this depicted very often, especially not mothers. Mothers are always sort of relegated to the kitchen or, this kind of, there's an idea about what a mother should be. And I think this movie presents the idea of what a mother could be. And that was interesting to me. I kind of recognized that immediately reading it. And then the sort of opportunity to get into the water and, really be under the water, which was a bit challenging for me because I had a sort of a fear already of like deep water. So the challenge of that was sort of exciting. And I spoke to the director, Rob, originally, and was like, oh, I love this movie. I mean, honestly, it just sort of, it speaks to me on a deep level, but I'm kind of afraid of the sequences under the water. And he sort of said, oh, it's all going to be in a swimming pool, don't worry about it. And it wasn't, it was real. So, and that was amazing to sort of, to be underwater, to kind of hold your breath and sort of be in a position like that really gives you this heightened sense of awareness.
Well,
which sort of changes the way that you perceive things in a really positive way.
I was about to say, like, you're completely convincing in all these like elaborate free diving sequences. Like, I mean, you must have taken to it pretty quickly.
We had professionals that were on set, so I kind of was learning on the job because we had to be in the water every other day. It was freezing cold, and we had like, I don't know if you see scenes where we have blue lips in the movie, but we do because it was cold. Very invigorating. But we had the swimming kind of trainer around through all those sequences, and I was just getting more confident all the time. And so there is a sequence in the film where I do dive, and it's like, I remember the day it was like I was down there like 7 or 8 meters on this one breath, and I was looking up and I could just saw the water and thought, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. But I did. And then Rob's like, can we do it again? And I'm like, no, that's it. I hope you got it. But yeah, so from somebody who initially was just like afraid of cold water to being able to sort of dive like that, that was quite a transition for me. And what helped was that you get engaged with the space. Like when you see the fish down there, you forget yourself, and then you're like, you can go deeper, I guess, because you're inspired.
Speaking of fish, now the most, charming and, immersive sequences in the whole film are your interactions with Blueback himself, the groper, which is like a seamless animatronic, CGI? I was even looking at it trying to pick it. I'm like, these things. How did you film those interactions, and what were the takes like with that?
Well, they were sort of quite easy because we didn't have to imagine anything. That the fish in the movie isn't a real fish; it's a puppet. But it was such a engaging puppet. It looked very, very real. And there was three guys. We were in the pool at that point, and the fish got into the pool with us. And he had like these sticks sticking out the top of him, and there was three guys, and they were all synchronized, kind of. So he looked like a real fish. We didn't have to imagine anything, and those scenes were quite easy because there he was with us.
You've worked with some of the biggest names in Hollywood, including Denzel Washington. How does our own Eric Bana measure up?
You can tell like Eric Bana has the kind of fanfare that he has because he's fun. Like, you know, on set, his character's kind of wacky and kooky. And, you know, when he was there was a real sense, you know, Eric's on set. And there was a focus about it, and he really enlivened that role. Like he made it into this amazing, fun, weird, kooky guy. And you just want to see more of him, really. I mean, he has that appeal. He's the kind of guy you want to see more of. With
the timelines, your character is played by two actresses. Did you talk to Liz Alexander about her portrayal of Dora at all?
No. No, not really. Honestly, I was strangely enough, again, it was like we kind of look similar. Like it's very convincing that you could be the same person.
I wondered
except
I wondered if there was a conversation, if ever, to put you in prosthetics or anything like that, to have you as the age Dora at one stage.
I wanted to do that, but I think they didn't want to mess around, and it was good to just have a person just present as a woman at that age. But of course, you know, I wanted to do it. But honestly, there was enough to do with what I was doing, so I'm glad I didn't have to add that to it. But it would have been very interesting. And I think we planned to speak, but I was in quarantine because we shot it during that whole episode. So I was doing 2 weeks in a house that I didn't realize I was going to have to do while they were shooting, and it was sort of complicated to arrange an actual conversation between us. I wanted the character to have a lot of tattoos, but they'd already started shooting her, so we couldn't. She didn't have any. But yeah, I kind of thought it would have been interesting to see an older Dora, like with a history on her body kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the story had begun before I could bring that to it.
Or maybe in the sequel we can try and change something around.
In the sequel, yeah, maybe.
Now you're competing against the biggest aquatic film of all time, basically, with Avatar 2: The Way of Water. Now both movies have got they've got an ecological message. Do you think that both movies,
blue theme?
Yeah. But I mean, it's a movie. It's a year for underwater movies. And
I don't know if we're competing. Perhaps we are talking to the same audience. In a world that is of interest to them.
That's what I was hoping. Yes. I was thinking, do you think that both of them can kind of coexist, and you can show a different facet of kind of that environmental message with your film?
Well, I don't even know what the other film that you're referring to is going to be about. I presume the blue people are going to be in it still.
Yes, lots of them.
I hope. Yes, so we have a blue fish, so there's compliment there. So they're gone underwater now, because before, James Cameron and I was obsessed with the ocean, so
yes.
So what, I didn't know. So this is more based in the ocean.
It's more of an exploration, I guess, of the aquatic life. But it just seems it's strange that at the moment that between in the Marvel universe, which is so huge, like Wakanda Forever has all this aquatic scenes. It seems like a year for underwater movies, and you've got our premier Australian one, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try and tie that up. I think the whole world, you know, collectively is sort of drawing attention to the ocean now. Yes. And it's sort of a mystery to us, you know. There it is. It's like this wild universe that we kind of see the top of, and very few of us have that opportunity to get under and explore. It's almost like an outer space exploration right here, you know, on the shore. Yes. And the creatures that you do encounter, some of them are so strange that, you know, they look like aliens. It's amazing, like kind of what we don't know. And I feel like people are kind of tying it together that, you know, how, you know, the environmental issues that we're dealing with encompass what's going on in the ocean. In fact, we need to keep plant life alive in the ocean in order to keep the oxygen at the levels that they are. So it's all interconnected, and we've been focused on on the land, I guess, because we live on it. But what I learned from Blueback was that we're very what's the word, amphibian. More so, I'm more amphibian than I realized. You know, I can like be underwater for minutes at a time without breathing. And there's so much to see and so many ways to engage. So I feel like the zeitgeist is bringing attention to that, and having these movies that engage the whole family. It sort of makes sense, and there's so much to say and think about.
Yeah.
I think Blueback's going to be very much more about, hey, this is the world we're in now as we're looking at it. And I presume the other film to which you refer is a bit more fantastical. Well, I actually think the conversation about it is, what's your inner activist? You know, that's the individual's question. Like, how can we participate and not just sort of be voyeurs to this catastrophe? You know, like, how can we participate in a positive way? And for me, it was like an amazing opportunity just to be able to make a movie like this. It felt like a form of activism. But I think there's so many different, it's such a jigsaw puzzle, and everybody has their own talent. And so I think the movie just asks you to consider what you're passionate about, and to be sensitive to your connection to the world that you're part of, I guess, in an emotional way. Like, you know, in this case, we're being friends with a fish. And I think that's the inspiration. When you have like an emotional connection, you feel more engaged.